Thank you.
Thank you, Badri, for that enlightening overview of Trailhead's self-learning platform of Salesforce. Your insights into self-learning and development are crucial for empowering teams in today's fast-paced environment. Now, as we continue our journey of growth and learning, I'm excited to introduce Siddharth Kapur, partner at Quantum Consumer Solutions, bringing years of brand strategy experience. Siddharth is here to lead us through customer experience and growth hacking masterclass. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and welcome Siddharth Kapur.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the masterclass of customer experience and growth hacking. My name is Siddharth Kapur. Here's a little bit about me. I'm a brand and go-to-market strategist, currently working as a partner with Quantum Consumer Solutions. I have close to 16 years of experience of building brands with organizations like Tata Motors, Unilever, and Danone. After Danone, I've used my experience to also help a lot of startups and SMBs like you all to build brands right from scratch, from an idea to 0 to 1 stage. And one of the key topics that I've focused a lot on is customer experience and how we can hack growth for every kind of business. I'm just going to touch a little bit about the organization that I belong to right now, Quantum Consumer Solutions. It's an organization which is built and rooted in social sciences, consumer insights, and they're experts in strategy and design. What is interesting is they've been in the system for over 30 years and have been pioneers when it comes to qualitative research. So understanding consumers is the gold standard, is the holy grail of Quantum. And keeping that as the starting point, Quantum helps a lot on building different business solutions like business strategy, brand strategy, innovation, experience and service, a topic that I'm going to discuss a lot today, as well as some business solutions and transformational solutions for startups and SMBs. Yeah. So coming to the topic for today. The topic for today is customer experience, also popularly known as CX. Let's start with a video where we'll try and understand why CX is important.
You see, I've been studying customer experience for over 15 years. And what I noticed in the last year is that customer experience became the only thing that mattered to people. Why is that? Because customers were more stressed than they've ever been. And so as a customer, you know that you no longer cared about loyalty because there were bigger stressors in your life. As a customer, you wanted to do business with the company that simply made your life easier and better. And that's it. And so now we're facing a business world where customer experience has emerged as really the only thing that differentiates a business. And customer experience now looks different because all of us, our lives have changed. And so many of us, we picked up new behaviors during COVID that we don't want to let go of. You see, 73% of customers changed the way they shopped during COVID. And a lot of innovation in technology, contactless payments, how we buy. Customers don't want to go back to the way things were. And now we're living in a time where people are starting to realize that life is short. And tomorrow, we don't know what is coming. So we have to embrace the day. And what does that mean? That means that people realize that things don't matter that much. That it's actually experiences that matter, our relationships. The feeling of kissing and hugging your grandchildren and having your family close. Or going somewhere like Orlando to SeaWorld or Disney World and experiencing that with your family. I'd much rather pay a lot of money for that than some type of item or object. And so what does that mean for you that now we're living in a world where customers have very high expectations? We no longer live in a world that's black and white because inspiration is everywhere. And today, the winnings go to the creative problem solver that understands that really we're only all in the business of doing two things: making customers' lives easier and making customers' lives better. And if we're not doing that, we're not going to be in business for long.
Very interesting, right? The other thing, and let's look at the quote, right, from Steve Jobs. It's quite evident how he saw this coming, the whole customer experience phenomena. You've got to start with customer experience and then work backwards towards the technology and not the other way around. We generally have it reversed, right? And that's what I'm going to focus a lot in this masterclass. Some of the data points that we saw in the video, I'm just going to highlight a little bit more to emphasize on how important this topic is. 49% of customers who left a brand that were loyal to in the past year, it was due to poor customer experience. 51% of customers will never do business with a company again after only one negative experience. 79% of the leaders believe customer service should be available across all channels that customers use. 86% of buyers are willing to pay more for a great customer experience. 43% of consumers would pay more for convenience, and 42% would pay more for a friendly experience. Customer-centric business are 60% more profitable than non-customer-centric businesses. 73% of customers say CX is key factor in their purchasing decisions, second only to price and product quality. So if you look at this data, and I don't have to emphasize on the fact that how important customer service is, how important customer experience is. And that actually gets me to this point that a lot of times, a lot of us say, and like I just did, customer service and customer experience are used interchangeably, right? But no, it is not the same thing. What is this sharp difference between the two? Customer experience is what you do and design proactively. You design for an experience. Customer service is more reactive. If you have done a little sale, you will make sure that there is somebody to service the customer. That approach is very different. That approach doesn't have a delight factor into it. That's why if you look at the differentiators that have been called out on the slide, it's a very, very different world. It's a world where in experience, loyalty programs are created. Monitoring brand sentiment on social media is not just from a report card point of view, but also what are people saying about the brand and how can we enhance that feeling. Product design and packaging and branding are not just to sell, not to just to make the sale, but also to make sure that people experience it. And then customer service and support are put in as delighters when it comes to experience, right? Whereas on the service side, this is at a broader level. It's not that it's not important, but all of it is generally done as a one-off thing once the sale is made. The biggest difference between the two is customer experience is throughout the customer value journey. Customer service, however, has a shelf life which generally comes in after the sale is made. That's the old habit with which businesses have been running, which needs to change. Customer experience needs to stay as a core throughout the value journey. Some of the outcomes of bad customer experience, right? Some of them are intuitive, but we tend to forget that how much it can impact a customer. All of us are customers. They do impact us in some manner or the other. It increases the churn rate. Even a single instance, like I said, as a data point as well, is enough to make your customers switch, which means I have to spend more marketing dollars to recruit another set of customers just because of my poor customer experience. It affects my brand loyalty. Brand loyalty, as they say, is only true when you are continuously offering value to the consumer. Otherwise, in today's competitive world, consumers can make choices very fast and they can go to a different brand, right? So, which is why when people say loyalty is dying, it is a dying concept now. Experience is the only concept that will thrive for growth. It increases customer service costs. Every time I am dealing with a customer, if I'm not providing the standard that is required, I'm likely to service the consumer again and again, and that will increase my cost that I have to offer for every particular service that I'm doing for the customer. And goes without saying, in the long run, even in the short run, actually, it starts damaging my reputation. Now let's move to how the reality is changing. The reality today is that the whole consumer mindset is changing. It's an omni-channel consumer. What that means? What that means is that today one customer might discover a product or a service online, but they might go offline to actually experience it, or vice versa. So gone are those days where you could just get your experience or a service right at one consumer touch point. That's not going to happen anyways now. It is across touch points where customer experience needs to be a top-notch quality output, which is why it needs to be a seamless omni-channel experience that we need to create. And that's why our focus needs to shift. And our focus needs to shift immediately from just about acquiring a customer just to make the sale to designing the whole brand purchase journey as a great customer experience. And one cannot do that without understanding the mindsets of our consumer. What are they thinking? What are their motivations in life in general? And I'm going to go into detail there as well. How do we achieve this? One key thing is that how well do we even understand the journey of a consumer? And what that means is looking at it from an outward point of view. A lot of us focus a lot on how is my consumer or a customer reacting within my category. If I'm into travel category, how do they travel, right? But what we forget is they are first a human. What are their motivations? There are certain things that triggers them. There are certain things that upsets them. There are certain bigger motivations that they want to achieve in life. How well do I understand that? And then I need to understand how can travel solve for that? Or how does travel solve that in their mind as well? So the linkage has to be established. And then we need to future-proof the journey, which effectively means, like I said, customer experience has to be designed. It is not going to happen by fluke. It is not going to happen just by chance. It has to be designed at every consumer touch point through the whole journey. A lot of people ask me, is this only true for consumer businesses? Not at all. B2B businesses and any kind of businesses where there are humans, of course, involved and there are experience opportunities to be created, customer experience must be at play. It's a currency for growth. Now let's move to looking at some of the examples, how some of the brands have actually got it right and how they are very well recognized by all of us as brands that are great in customer experience in their own way. And customer experience has many shades, right? It is not just an umbrella thought of customer experience. It is how Uber cuts it when it comes to customer convenience. It's also how a Ritz-Carlton cuts it when it comes to best guest service. Disney on best magical experience. Apple, we all know, most innovative experience. Netflix viewing experience, IKEA shopping experience, JetBlue passenger care, and IBM best client solutions. Some of the brands we know, our favorite brands, the power brands, they have something very specific about them that is actually designed or from customer experience. It's just a thought here now for everyone, right? So, what's common between all these brands? And these are all, as you can see, these are young, digital first Indian brands. What's common between these? The most common thing about this is the fact that they're all digital first brands, like I said. But what they have done very effectively, they are actually playing in a category where a consumer doesn't get to experience, right? Consumer has to make a choice. Either they are new categories or they're trying to break the old category habits by going digital first. All of them, right? If you look at LiveSpace, WakeFit, Tootsie, they all have an experience center at key locations in a city. You look at an urban city, and I'm sure they're going to penetrate. You can actually go and experience the brand very well and exactly know what your product is going to be. Like I said, some of them use this as a discovery zone and then go back and online order, or just come in and ask questions with regards to, here's my home, this is what my home looks like, how well can we design it, right? So you can actually create your solutions which are personalized as well. Now, some of the examples of why we are looking at customer experience into brands. Here are some of the examples of brands where they have leveraged technology in a very beautiful way to enhance their customer experience. Most of us would have gone to a McDonald's and the kiosks that have been created where we can actually order from there. We don't have to stand in a line. You can place the order and straight away go and pick up the food. Right? Now, it's a very, very small thing. And that's the other thing about customer experience, that you don't have to fix something big. You have to fix multiple small things. The collective impact is what the consumers feel and the delight that it creates. So this is one experience. Anita Dongre's, so this is what Salesforce has done, right? Where the whole omni-channel experience has been absolutely seamless by using Salesforce technology. Another example is Godrej and Boyce, how they have lifted customer experience by using Salesforce, right? So there are many examples like this, but the point is that you need to first understand what is it that you're solving for. And when I get into the later part of the presentation, you will see how we can actually do it as an organization to make sure that you're solving for the right thing, and then the delight comes on its own. Now let's focus on what customer experience framework is. The idea of showing this framework to all of you is, a lot of times we hear new concepts, but we end up struggling to figure out, now how do I create that for my organization? How do I imbibe this for my organization? That's why a framework. That's why a framework that helps. This is something that we, along with Quantum Consumer Solutions, the organization that I'm part of, we've created, and we've helped multiple startups and SMBs to make sure that their customer experience is in check. Yeah. What is the biggest thing that holds a customer experience? When all of us go out and as customers, right, and we are interacting with brands and services, friction is what gets created, right? And they can be of different types. So one friction is emotional friction, when the user feels inundated with the experience, which means that you expected much more, but you don't get it, right? Then there is a cognitive friction, where you know that the experience, when you go to a store, when you go to a service, right, there are a lot of things which are not intuitive enough. You tend to feel that these things should have been taken care of, but such obvious things are not even considered, right? Interactive friction, when you go and interact with people who you are supposed to deal with, whether it's a salesman at a in a store or somebody at a service station, either which ways, you know that this experience created some friction, right? So it's the interactive friction. All of us, if we think of some of our examples that we interact with, one of these frictions is at play. In some cases, all of them are happening at the same time, right? And that's where you know that there are things which are absolutely off, right? So friction is the biggest reason why customer experience can go south, and for us to have that feeling that this brand isn't for me, this brand doesn't think of me, and your personalization and your love for the brand starts fading away. And in the world of multiple choices today, you have many other brands lined up which you would like to experiment. So for that particular brand, which spent good amount of marketing dollars to acquire me as their customer, right, suddenly lost me because of one of these frictions or all of them. Yeah. So the holy grail of customer experience framework for growth hacking is actually emerging from the friction. The whole task is you solve for friction and you design for joy. Yeah. What does that mean? You solve for any kind of friction, and you cannot arrive at that friction till the time you actually try and understand your consumers. What is the friction in the whole process, right? And in that, when you meet your customers, when you meet your consumers, you'll always know that there is a bit of a unsaid wish list. There is a bit of an unsaid joy that they are seeking, which they also don't know what that is. But if you create it, then they will remember you forever, right? So they both these things come together. You just don't solve for friction, because then you need to remember, when customer experience penetrates a lot more, your competition can also solve for friction if they are listening to their consumers, of course. But how well can you also design for joy? So it's a combination. It's something that works in tandem. How do you do it? One, building efficiency, right? Like I spoke about, removing frictions from the purchase journey is the most critical aspect, right? You need to identify, and a consumer journey has to be broken down into mini steps. Right from when a consumer starts thinking about your category, not even your brand, where are we? What are we talking to them? How are we interacting? And then the whole journey, which I'm going to touch again, on how the consumer value journey needs to be seen and broken down into multiple steps. Then designing for effectiveness, right? Like I said, that this is where you make sure that a purchase journey needs to be designed the right way, right? And somewhere during the course, somewhere during multiple hands coming in, multiple people coming in to create the journey, it gets broken along the way. So how do you make sure that the actual designs, and this is different from friction, how do you make sure that the actual design of the purchase journey is first of all in check, right? How do you make the process very effective? The last one, like I mentioned, this is creating for joy. This is, like I love to say, that this is the cherry on the cake, right? We all love the cherry on the cake because it comes with a surprise, right? The first two aspects are the cake, very critical. But the cherry on the cake is what people will remember you for, even when they are not subconsciously thinking of your brand or a category, right? And the joy is another aspect where a customer, because they got some amazing experience from your brand, they will become advocates of what you are trying to sell, of what your brand purpose is, and they will tell 10 more people about your beautiful experience that you created for them, right? So this is the core ethos of what I'm calling as the customer experience framework. Why it is linked to growth hacking? As you can see, you're able to solve for your existing customers. There is also a delight that you're creating for your new customers, right? And in the future as well, for your future customers, there is joy, there is process efficiencies that you're building, right? So you are able to acquire customers and make sure that your customer journey is not a leaky bucket. What I mean by that is every year you should not be, your consumers and your customers should not be lapsing out, right? That's what we are trying to make sure here. And hence we are trying to crack growth. Yeah. If I was to break down this approach, if I was to break down the framework into actions that you all can take at your end as well, is one, identify the brand code. What that means, I will explain in detail as well, but very quickly, how well do you know your brand is in the minds of the consumer, right? Like there is an old saying as well, brand is not what you create. Brand is what people think of you, right? So how well do you know that whichever brand, whichever product, whatever your service you're trying to make, B2C, B2B, doesn't matter, how do others perceive you in their mind? That's the identification of brand code. Then we have to unpack the mindsets that enter the purchase journey. What does that mean? All of us are consumers of maybe the same category, but the reason why we all use it is absolutely different. Some people buy a car because they need it. Some people buy a car because they want to show to others that I've got a car. Some people buy a car because they want to prove it to themselves that I can afford a particular car. The reasons are many. The mindset at play is very, very different. The motivations are different. Everyone comes from a different background. So what is it? What are different mindsets at play that one can look at that enter the purchase journey of any category? Then customer journey mapping. We will, like I spoke about, that the whole journey of a customer has to be broken down into mini steps. And then what can I do to solve for the friction? What can I do to make the ideal effective journey? And then most importantly, what can I do to create joy? Yeah. And then last one, which I'll touch quickly on at the end, is about how do you design the future, right? This is a masterclass or a topic in itself. How do you design it? But I'll touch upon how to close the loop on this framework. Yeah. So now let's look at each element slightly in more detail. When you look at identifying the brand code, what is more critical here is what is it that your consumers feel about your brand? What kind of perceptions have they built about your brand? A lot of times a founder or a promoter believes that they are very clear what kind of product, brand or service they're trying to create. However, if it is not done in sync with consumer insights, what happens is that the way it was imagined, the vision is not the perception that consumers have, right? And then that gap is where a lot of marketing dollars are wasted to acquire consumers. And more importantly, after acquiring consumers, you waste a lot of time in servicing them and building an experience for them because you've not understood your consumers very well and how they understand your brand. That's why the first step is to understand the perceptions. Second, like I mentioned, it's damn important for us to create different smaller steps in the purchase journey of a consumer. How well are you able to identify key points where you can create and solve for friction? Where can you make the process more effective? And what are some of the moments as sub moments within the whole thing where you can create joy? It could be very, very small things, but you can create joy there, right? So that's why it's very important to understand these mindsets. And then we go into consumer journey mapping, right? So the consumer journey mapping, it is very important for us to know in a similar way on the whole milestone piece, what are some of the tasks that are coming out? What are some of the JTBDs, which are job to be dones that are emerging, right? That I need to solve for, right? Like in the second step, you identified. Now you need to solve and start putting them as actions that I need to solve for particular aspect in a consumer journey. Last one, it's again very critical. You have to design for it, right? Now, you can reach an action. Ideation is easier than execution. We all must have heard that, and that's what is reality in customer experience. You might have ideated to some key steps, but without an execution, it's of no value. And that's why it has to be designed as a customer experience on every sub point of the consumer touch point. How will we delight? How are we creating that experience? That's what comes in the last step. Yeah. Now, for me to visualize the whole customer experience framework to you all, what I've done is I've taken a reference of a journey of, let's say, a motorcycle brand, a famous motorcycle brand, and how different steps have been carved out that we just saw for this particular brand, right? So if you look at the first one, which is identifying the brand code, yeah. The first thing that needs to be done is, like I said earlier, you need to know what is the brand positioning. What is the brand positioning in the minds of consumer? How do they perceive it? Are there certain value systems? And by that, what I mean is that when they are using your brand, are they using your brand to uplift their lifestyle? Are they using their brand to just fill a little gap, like they need something and the brand or the product just fits it? Or are they using the brand to make their lives better, right? Whichever way you do it, you need to know what is the role that you're playing in their lives. And then accordingly, you create some design principles. What that means here is that you need to know that what are some of the core things that are truly associated with your brand, or in some cases your category, right? Like for example, in today's quick commerce world, if anybody says that I can deliver groceries in 20 minutes, all of us will have a thought on saying that that's too delayed, right? We will not agree with that. Because suddenly the new norm, the core of that particular category now is 8 to 10 minutes, right? So that is very, very critical. So what are some of the core value system? What are some of the peripheral value systems, right? Which means that these are good to haves, but the must haves are the core, right? So that's what is very, very critical for us to pen down in understanding how people think of us as a brand code. Secondly, in the same step, you need to know your tribe. Every consumer, like in this case of a bike as well, every potential category has a tribe of people who behave in a certain manner. Who are those people who you need to know and understand the maximum? And then they will help you build future products. They will help you talk about your brand to others as well. Yeah. What do they think are the distinct qualities about your brand? Very critical. See, customer experience is actually not just about creating newer things. Customer experience is also about things that people associate with you to do more of that. If I am Toyota as a brand and I'm known for quality, then I have to make sure that everything that I do, if tomorrow Toyota had an airlines, my expectation from a Toyota is going to be that when it comes to quality, they're going to be the best, right? Those are the promises that a brand has. Most of you might think that my brand, my business is not as big as that. However, even if you're serving a smaller group of people, even if you're serving 15,000 customers today or 1 lakh customers today, that also becomes your critical mass for you to make sure that within those people, what do they think of me? What is it that is very critical, that is my association in their mind, right? It could be anything. It could be negative, then I need to improve it. But there must be one little positive that I can say that this is my distinctiveness, which I can stand for, right? Very, very critical. That's where the brand why comes out. Why should I use this brand? Why should I use this product? All these things are, so in some cases, the brand could be, like I said, about quality for Toyota. For someone, it could be honesty, someone authenticity, or just simplicity, right? In the world of quick commerce, I think convenience is the only route that I can think of, right? And we all would agree that none of us were asking for this convenience. But when it was created, a lot of people in urban cities cannot live without a quick commerce delivery now, right? So the whole aspect is that what is it that is most important in the minds of consumers? And then I have to stick to it and deliver the best that it is, right? If it's honesty, then I deliver on that. Authenticity, quality, simplicity, then I deliver on that. Yeah. The second one is how to unpack mindsets in the entire journey. What are we trying to understand here, right? What we're trying to understand is that everyone, all of us, have a purchase motivation, right? And then there is a context attached to it. Why do I need to purchase something, right? Is very critical. How will that change my current life or current scenario is also very, very critical. And that's the context, right? How does it change what I do? Does it make my life better? Does it make my life easier? Like we heard in the video as well. Very, very critical, right? So what's the core need? What are they seeking to fulfill? Yeah. How is the purchase expected to fill the gap? Right? Very important for us to understand that why people buy this. So for a bike brand, the need is I am seeking an adventurous experience, right? But a desire is I want to escape the city. I want to give myself a break. I want to release stress, right? That's the core thing. Now, releasing stress, giving break, the reasons could be anything. The trigger could be work stress. The trigger could be some personal stress. But the way this customer's motivation is driven is that I'm going to get onto my bike and go for a long ride because that will help me release stress, right? So a lot of times we stay so close to the category that we don't look at the life motivations of the individual. And by the way, I understand that this happens a lot. People think that this is only consumer brands. Similar things can be done for B2B brands. A lot of people, when you're dealing with a human on the other side. What is it that they are trying to achieve and that I can help with? And what is the motivation that they are sitting with? That is very critical to understand. Purchase context is how does the choice making happen in the category? How do they make the choice? What are the preferences? What are some of the barriers or some things that don't satisfy them? And what is that ideal purchase experience? One needs to understand that. And if you're a small brand, if you're a startup, you know that the category that you're playing in, there is always a competition. You can learn this by just observing some of your competition consumers or customers, just to know why do they buy this. Because there you will start seeing where the customer experience is breaking. Wherever the customer experience is breaking for competition, it could be your entry point. It could be your distinctiveness that you can create for your brand. Yeah. Then understanding the brand experience for this mindset. What is the brand advantage? Where do these meet expectations, right? What is the brand lacking and why? So even as a user, I need to know my customers very well, that you've been using my product for quite some time, right? Because all of us are in motion, right? Customer experience is happening as we speak across different categories. So even if you're trying to study your competition, a simple question is, what do you not like in the interaction or the experience with the brand? And you start hearing things about maybe product or service or something completely different that might come through, right? Now let's move to the third critical step, customer journey mapping. What's most important here is that each step is a small step towards the larger goal of the customer journey. Every step has a story in it. every step from the time in a pre-purchase zone to post-purchase and experience zone has a story in it which kind of adds up to customer experience. Another time, I'm going to just remind about the fact that customer experience is not an organic output that you have stacked up 5-6 steps in your sales process and then we wish that the customer experience will be great, right? And that's how customer service is different from experience. In experience, you think of an experience that you want at the end of the output, and then you go back and create that into each step. For example, if you know that I want an adventurous mindset of my customer to be served throughout the journey, I will create everything about it during the journey, right? For example, on the adventurous mindset, if it's pre-exploration stage, am I speaking to the right influencers who influence the mind of my customer, the adventurous mindset? Am I speaking to influencers? Am I going onto the right websites? Am I showcasing the product at the right events where it matters for that person, where that kind of a profile of a customer will go, right? That's the pre-exploration phase. Then when it comes to deciding, when it getting closer to the fact that, where somebody's making choices, am I at the right groups? Am I at the right communities where I can actually influence somebody's thought on, creating the whole process of purchasing a bike? For example, when a bike ride happens, right, a lot of groups happen. There are examples where what brands have done is they have given 50 bikes for free for a group of community because they are highly active with an adventurous mindset on their social media. So when they are riding with 50 brand new bikes into the whole valley or wherever they want to ride, and they are talking about the product. Now, as an audience, I am only observing them, right? I'm still not buying. I'm still in the exploration mode, but somewhere it's creating an influence on me that's exactly the mindset that I have. I actually could be one of those riding this bike, right? So how well am I doing that? Then you go to conversion to purchase, right? Here, there is a difference between when somebody comes in, how well are we dealing with them? Am I just doing this to make the sale? Or I am informing the consumer, educating the consumer, asking them very well that what kind of bike do you want? What kind of, just because we have certain bikes, we should not be hard selling it like that. We need to understand what kind of bikes, what kind of motivations do they have. It goes back to the same unpacking mindsets. What do you want to use the bike for? Why do you want a bike in your life? What will it change in your life? Why are you looking to buy a bike? All these things. A utility of a bike, everyone knows. It goes from point A to point B, right? But then that's true for every bike. What is so interesting that you have in mind that you have come to the store, to the dealer, to the showroom to buy the bike, right? Or to consider the bike. You talk about those things, engage in those conversations, because that's when you're not doing hard sell, you're actually engaging and creating a great experience for the customer, right? Now imagine if they've just booked the bike, right? What all are critical things for the individual to know, right? After they have booked the bike. We must consider those. We must build that into the experience. Then after they receive the bike, what kind of mindset will that customer be in, right? How do we want to create experience of that mini step? It's a very critical milestone for the customer. If we think it from a sales point of view, it is about delivering another bike, right? But if you put yourself in the shoes of the customer, that person might not buy a bike ever in his life or her life, right? And it just might be that this is the bike that they always wanted. So how do you make sure that this key moment is so special for them? What are some of the small steps that you can create for them That happens in this. Now, you could do this as a showroom owner. You could do this, so that's where a B2B kicks in. You could also do this as a brand directly for your consumer, right? Nothing stops. Anybody can create customer experience. The intention is more important, and then the action flows, right? So that's the whole journey in store phase, right? Now, when you're using the product for the first 6 months, it might be a different journey. First 2 years might be a very different journey. There are a lot of things that are covered in servicing. So how do you make sure that when few free services, for example, are done, what will be the journey after that? How do you make sure that from a business point of view, that the customer continues to come to you just because of the experience? A lot of times what happens, till the time the free servicing is being given by the showroom, by the dealer, the customer comes. After that, they choose to go to someone else close by or get it done by a local supplier as well, right? How do you make sure that they always come back to you? And the only reason they will come back is because of the experience that you create for that person, not just at the showroom to sell, but also at the service center to get the bike serviced. Yeah. The other thing is that, which happens a lot, and this is an example particularly taken because the consumer value journey has so many potential pitfalls, because after you make the sale or after you get the booking done, you don't focus on, then the sale is broadly done, right? After you do the sale, then the job is done, right? So you can tend to, relax in that journey of creating that customer experience, right? So that is why this is very, very critical. As an example, after the person is riding, your brand is still at play. It is not a FMCG product where I have consumed the product and I'm done, right? This is something they have purchased. It is with them for life. They're going to ride it. They're going to ride with their spouse. They're going to ride with their kids. They're going to ride with friends. Whichever way they do it, it is something that they're experiencing along the way. How are you making sure that their experience is beautiful throughout? Because like I said earlier, this is one category where, like many other categories, where word of mouth is magic, right? Word of mouth, there are many bike brands which still don't advertise, right? But still the kind of community they've been able to develop, right? It's so cult, it's so specific because people love the brand, people love the bike. And if you enhance the experience, it is just going to become more than just owning the bike, right? But to kind of stay with it and tell many other people to experience it as well. The last phase, which honestly in this category gets ignored a lot from a customer experience point of view, which is resale. We know that a lot of startups are brewing in this space, are coming up in this space. It's very critical to make sure that there is experience here as well. And it's not just thought of as the customer needs it, they will come and we'll make the pitch, right? How can you create experience here as well? So this is the whole customer experience journey that is very critical for us to break down. And always remember that every mini step has a story in it. How well are you listening to your customer in those little stories where you can either solve for friction or create the process and make it more effective? And the most beautiful thing, how can you create joy in any potential aspects? My last couple of slides, this is where, the different mindsets can become a reality. A same product or a same brand can be ridden by 6 different mindsets at play, right? The first one is where journey trumps destination. People who just enjoy the journey, not the destination. For some, it's an immersive escape, right? That the reason they get onto their bike is to just escape and cut off for that brief moment or few days, whatever. Then the collective experience. You don't go alone, you always ride together, and it's the experience that you kind of do. For some, it's actually about storytelling. I get onto my bike, I go and explore something only because I can come and tell stories to my friends and family, and that is what I enjoy the most. For some, it's mastery. Mastery are specialist of the product, that this is the product that I own because I understand bike the best. I have the knowledge, and this is a bike which actually helps me build my mastery on a topic like bike or any other topic. And the thoroughness, right, which is also coming in from the fact that how well I plan my trip, right? So, how well am I prepared for the trip? Which could be that how well is my bike ready? Are the tires checked? Is there fuel checked? Is everything checked about my bike? Is what I have a thorough understanding for. What that means is a thoroughness customer experience might be completely different from, let's say, somebody who's a storytelling mindset or a collective experience mindset, right? Because for collective experience, it might not be so much about, detailing of the bike. If X goes wrong, what one can do, what are some of the service stations along the way, those knowledge, that preparedness is with the thoroughness mindset. So you can't create the same experience for everyone. One would argue that there will be overlaps. Yes, there will be overlaps, but all of us have a very core mindset that excites us, right? That makes the whole delight happen, right? What is that about my customer? One needs to know. And customer experience is not just to be created in a document, it has to be felt. It has to be felt by your frontline salesperson. It has to, of course, eventually be felt by the customer, right? And then how can they make sure that it's felt by some of your non-customers as well? So that's the journey that is very, very critical, and there are different mindsets that one needs to know. The last slide is about the designing of it, right? And like I said, this is a topic in itself which requires way more in-depth collective discussion. But broadly, what you're trying to do here is, if you identified friction, if you identified process improvements or joy, you capture them here as design challenges, right? So you actually capture them and put them as questions. Because when you put them as questions, you can actually then start collecting ideas from your team and present it as solutions to the right stakeholders. So how can we create seamlessness all the way from appointment booking to the moment of actual service? How can we create easy visibility and transactability with the appointment booking experience and so on, right? These are examples, but to actually make it action oriented, you need to know where is the gap, and hence what is it that I'm solving for? What's the job to be done? And that's what this will talk about. Yeah, so in the end, I'll just leave this and something I said earlier as well. That's my last slide, which is purely talking about how building a good customer experience is not by accident. It cannot happen by accident. In fact, when you leave it, accidents actually happen, right? Like there will be pitfalls, there will be disappointments that will get created in the process, and we keep hearing about such cases, right? It has to happen by design. That's why design challenges, that's why JTBDs, jobs to be done, to be called out, are very, very critical. Yeah. So yeah, it was lovely interacting with all of you. Thank you so much for your time. In case of any questions, please do reach out. Thank you so much. Once again, this is Siddharth Kapur, and I would love to connect with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth, for such a knowledgeable session. We truly enjoyed the masterclass, and I'm sure we've got so much more to take back home. Well, this has certainly been an incredible day. From leadership and high performance teams to operational excellence, marketing strategies, and customer experience. Today has been full of valuable insights. As we wrap up, don't miss the chance to explore our interactive booths, whether it's optimizing operations, enhancing customer experiences, or discovering new growth solutions. This is your opportunity to connect with experts and explore innovations. Thank you again for joining us, and here's to continued growth and success. This is Rina D'Souza signing off.
ಅವರು ಅವ್ರ ತಂದೆ ಅವ್ರ ಕಡೆ ಅವ್ರ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು